The hotel receptionist slid my room key back. Book somewhere else tonight. Trust me. Her voice was barely above a whisper, her eyes darting toward the security cameras overhead before settling back on me with desperate intensity. I'd just driven 6 hours to get here. It was 11 p.m., and I was exhausted from a work conference that had drained every ounce of energy I had left. Now this young woman, maybe 25, with a name tag that read Becca, was telling me to leave the 4-star hotel I'd prepaid for. "I'm sorry, what?" I said, thinking I'd misheard her. She leaned forward slightly, her manicured nails tapping the counter in what seemed like nervous energy. "Room 412. That's where they put you, right? Don't stay there. Book literally anywhere else. Even the motel down the street. Just not here. Not tonight." My first thought was bed bugs, or maybe a plumbing issue they didn't want to comp me for. "Is there a problem with the room? I can take a different one." Becca glanced over her shoulder toward the back office where I could hear someone talking on the phone, then back at me. "There are no other rooms. We're fully booked. That's why they gave you 412. She said the number like it meant something, like I should understand the significance. When I didn't react, she added, "You're the 6th person in 3 months. They always put people in 412 when we're full and they always—" She stopped abruptly as a man in a manager's uniform emerged from the office. "Is everything all right, Becca?" he asked, his tone friendly, but his eyes sharp as they moved between us. She straightened immediately, her professional smile snapping into place. "Just finishing up this check-in, Mr. Vance." The guest had some questions about amenities. Mr. Vance walked over and looked at my reservation on the computer screen. "Ah, Mr. Harrison. Welcome to the Riverside Grand. I see we've put you in one of our premium rooms on the 4th floor. You'll love the view." He extended his hand, and I shook it automatically, still trying to process what Becca had started to say. The 6th person in 3 months. They always what? Mr. Vance kept talking about the hotel's features, the breakfast buffet, the fitness center, but I noticed Becca had gone completely still, staring at her computer screen like she was trying to disappear into it. "Well, I'll let you get settled," Mr. Vance said finally. "Becca will finish your check-in. If you need anything at all during your stay, don't hesitate to call the front desk." He returned to the office, and the second he was out of earshot, Becca grabbed a piece of paper and started writing quickly. She folded it and slid it across with my room key. "Checkout is at 11 a.m. Have a pleasant stay," she said loudly for the cameras, but her eyes were begging me to read the note. I took the key and the note, thanked her, and walked toward the elevator, my heart beating faster than it should have been for such a simple interaction. Once I was in the elevator alone, I unfolded the paper. The handwriting was shaky, but clear. 412 isn't safe. Guest in March disappeared. Guest in April found unconscious. Claims no memory of 3 days. Guest in May checked out after 1 night. Filed police report, but nothing came of it. I tried to tell my boss, but he said I was being dramatic. "Whatever you do, don't drink anything from the minibar and lock your door from the inside with the security bar. Please believe me." I read it 3 times as the elevator climbed to the 4th floor. This was insane. This was the plot of a bad horror movie. But Becca's face kept flashing through my mind, the genuine fear in her expression, the way she'd risked her job to warn me. The elevator doors opened onto a long hallway with burgundy carpet and cream-colored walls. Classical music played softly from hidden speakers. Everything looked expensive and normal, and nothing like a place where guests disappeared. Room 412 was at the end of the hall, the last door on the right. I stood outside it for a moment, the key card in my hand, trying to decide what to do. The logical thing was to ignore a dramatic hotel employee and get some sleep. I had a flight at 7 a.m. and I needed rest. But the illogical part of me, the part that had watched too many true crime documentaries, couldn't stop thinking about those other guests. What had happened to the person in March who disappeared? Where did they go? I unlocked the door and stepped inside, immediately hitting the light switch. The room was exactly what you'd expect from a nice hotel. King bed with crisp white linens, sitting area with a leather chair, desk with hotel information binders, bathroom with marble counters. A large window overlooked the river, city lights reflecting off the dark water. Nothing threatening, nothing unusual. I locked the door and engaged the security bar like Becca had suggested, feeling stupid, but doing it anyway. Then I walked around the room, checking the closet, under the bed, behind the shower curtain, feeling even more stupid but needing to be sure. Everything was empty. Everything was normal. The minibar was stocked with overpriced water, sodas, and mini bottles of alcohol. I opened it and looked at the bottles, wondering what Becca thought was wrong with them. They all looked factory sealed, nothing obviously tampered with. I closed it without taking anything and sat on the edge of the bed, pulling out my phone. I Googled Riverside Grand Hotel disappearance and found nothing. I tried Riverside Grand Hotel missing guest and got results about a different hotel in a different state. I searched for the hotel's reviews and scrolled through dozens of 5-star ratings praising the service, the rooms, the location. Nothing about disappearances or unconscious guests or police reports. Maybe Becca was just a conspiracy theorist with an overactive imagination. Maybe she'd misinterpreted some unrelated incidents. Maybe I was exhausted and paranoid for no reason. I changed into sleep clothes, set my alarm for 5 a.m., and got into bed. The sheets were soft and cool, the pillows perfect, and I was so tired that I started drifting off almost immediately, despite my earlier anxiety. That's when I heard it, a soft clicking sound, like a door lock disengaging. I sat up, my heart hammering, staring at my door. The security bar was still in place. The door was still locked, but I definitely heard something. I got out of bed and walked to the door, pressing my ear against it. Footsteps in the hallway, slow and deliberate. Someone was walking past the rooms, stopping at each door. I heard the clicking sound again, closer now, at the door next to mine. Then, at my door, the handle moved down slightly, testing it, but the security bar held. Whoever was outside didn't knock, didn't announce themselves, just tested the handle and moved on to the next room. I stood frozen at the door, listening to them work their way down the hallway, checking every single door. When the footsteps finally faded, I ran to the window and looked down at the parking lot. A man in maintenance uniform was walking toward a service van, carrying what looked like a tool bag. I couldn't see his face from 4 floors up, but there was something off about the way he moved, purposeful, but wrong somehow. I grabbed my phone and called the front desk. It rang 6 times before Becca answered, sounding strained. Riverside Grand, how can I help you? This is room 412. Someone just tried to get into my room. There was a long pause. What do you mean, tried to get in? Someone walked down the hallway checking all the door handles. They tested mine, but the security bar stopped them. Another pause. Longer this time. Sir, our maintenance staff doesn't work at this hour. Are you sure you didn't dream it? Sometimes in hotels, sounds can carry from other floors. I didn't dream it, I said firmly. I heard it. I saw the handle move, and I just watched someone in a maintenance uniform walk to a van in the parking lot. I heard Becca's breathing change, becoming faster. Mr. Vance is here. Let me get him for you. No, wait, but she'd already put me on hold. I hung up and immediately called 911. When the operator answered, I explained the situation as calmly as I could. Someone had tried to access my hotel room in the middle of the night using what appeared to be a master key, and the hotel receptionist had warned me earlier that previous guests in this room had experienced serious problems. The operator asked if I felt I was in immediate danger. I looked at my locked door, the security bar firmly in place, and said I didn't know. She said she'd send an officer to take a report. 15 minutes later, there was a knock on my door. Police. Mr. Harrison? I looked through the peephole and saw a uniformed officer, young, probably late 20s. I opened the door but kept the security bar in place. I'm Officer Williams. You called about someone trying to access your room? I explained everything again while he took notes. The door handle test, the person in maintenance uniform, Becca's warning, the note she'd given me. I showed him the note and he photographed it with his phone. And you said the receptionist mentioned previous incidents in this room? She said a guest disappeared in March, another was found unconscious in April, and someone else filed a police report in May. Officer Williams's expression changed slightly, becoming more serious. I'll need to verify those claims. Can you come down to the lobby with me? I grabbed my room key and followed him downstairs. The lobby was empty, except for Becca at the front desk and Mr. Vance in the office. When they saw the police officer, Mr. Vance came out immediately, all polished professionalism. Officer, is there a problem? I'm responding to a call from one of your guests. He reports someone tried to access his room using what appeared to be a master key. Mr. Vance looked genuinely surprised. That's impossible. All our master keys are accounted for, and only authorized personnel have access after hours. Who's authorized? Officer Williams asked. Just myself and our overnight security guard, Patrick Stone. He's currently making his rounds of the property. Does Patrick wear a maintenance uniform? Mr. Vance frowned. No, he wears a standard security uniform. Black shirt, black pants, company logo. Officer Williams turned to me. The person you saw was wearing a maintenance uniform? Yes. Gray shirt, gray pants. Mr. Vance shook his head. None of our maintenance staff are here after 8 p.m. If someone was walking the halls in a maintenance uniform after midnight, they weren't supposed to be here. The implication hung in the air. Someone had gotten into the hotel, possibly with a stolen or copied master key, and was checking rooms. Officer Williams asked to see the security footage. Mr. Vance led us to the back office where multiple monitors showed different areas of the hotel. He pulled up the footage from the 4th floor hallway starting at midnight. We watched in silence as the camera showed an empty corridor. At 12:37 a.m., a figure appeared at the far end. The camera quality wasn't great, but I could clearly see it was someone in a gray uniform carrying a bag, walking door to door, checking handles exactly as I'd described. The person's face was never visible, always angled down or turned away from the camera, like they knew exactly where it was positioned. When they reached room 412, my room, they tested the handle carefully, lingered for a moment, then continued down the hallway. At the end, instead of taking the elevator or stairs, they opened a service door marked Staff Only and disappeared. How did they get in through a staff door? Officer Williams asked. Mr. Vance looked genuinely shaken now. You need a security code. Only management and maintenance have it. Could someone have stolen the code? It's possible, but we change it monthly. The current code was just activated 3 days ago. Officer Williams asked to see footage from other areas. Mr. Vance pulled up the lobby cameras showing the front entrance, side entrance, and parking lot. Nothing showed anyone entering in a maintenance uniform. It was like they'd appeared inside the hotel. What about previous nights? I asked. Can you check if this has happened before? Mr. Vance looked at me for a long moment, then at Becca, who'd been standing silently in the doorway. Becca, why don't you take your break? It wasn't a suggestion. Once she left, Mr. Vance pulled up footage from 6 weeks ago. Same floor, same hallway, same time of night. The figure appeared again, checking doors, same gray uniform, same deliberate movements. That was the night, Mr. Vance started, then stopped. What night? Officer Williams pressed. The night we had a guest in room 412, who claimed to have woken up disoriented in the bathroom. April 14th. She couldn't remember going to bed or how she'd gotten there. She checked out early and later sent a threatening email about suing us for negligence, but nothing ever came of it. And you didn't think to report this to police? Officer Williams asked, his tone hardening. Report what? A guest who had too much to drink and got confused? She couldn't prove anything happened to her. What about March? I asked. Becca mentioned someone who disappeared. Mr. Vance's face went pale. That wasn't related to the hotel. A guest checked in and never checked out, but we assumed he simply left without following proper procedure. People do that sometimes. We billed his credit card for the stay. Did you file a missing persons report? Officer Williams asked. We contacted his emergency contact listed on his reservation. They said he'd been depressed, and they assumed he'd gone somewhere to clear his head. They paid the hotel bill and asked us not to make a fuss about it. Officer Williams was writing everything down now, his jaw tight. I'm going to need copies of all security footage from the nights these incidents occurred, all guest information for rooms 412 during these dates, and a list of everyone with access to master keys and security codes. Mr. Vance nodded, looking sick. Of course, whatever you need. Officer Williams turned to me. Mr. Harrison, I don't think you should stay in that room tonight. Is there somewhere else you can go? I have a flight at 7 a.m. I can just stay in the lobby until then. I'll stay with you, Officer Williams said, and I'm calling for backup to search the building. Within 20 minutes, 3 more police cars had arrived. Officers began searching the hotel floor by floor, while Mr. Powell Vance pulled up guest lists and security footage. I sat in the lobby with Officer Williams, watching the organized chaos unfold, still trying to process that I'd almost been the next victim in whatever was happening here. Becca came back from her break and approached us cautiously. Can I talk to you? She asked Officer Williams. He nodded and she sat down, her hands shaking. I should have said something sooner. I should have pushed harder when Mr. Vance dismissed my concerns, but I was afraid I'd lose my job, and I have student loans and rent and... She took a breath. The first time I noticed something was wrong was 3 months ago. A man checked into room 412 for a 3-night business stay. First night, everything fine. Second night, I wasn't working, but the next morning I came in, and there was a note in the system that he'd checked out early without notice. His things were still in the room, his car was still in the parking lot, but he was gone. We held his belongings for 30 days per policy, then boxed them up. Where are those belongings now? Officer Williams asked. Storage room in the basement. Everything gets kept for 6 months in case someone comes back for it. They went to retrieve the boxes while I sat alone in the lobby, exhausted and wired simultaneously. At 2:45 a.m., one of the officers searching the building came down with something in an evidence bag, a gray maintenance uniform shirt, balled up and shoved behind a vending machine on the 3rd floor. The name embroidered on it was Tom Patterson, Riverside Maintenance. Officer Williams radioed to headquarters to run the name. The response came back quickly. Tom Patterson was a maintenance worker at the hotel who'd been fired 8 months ago for inappropriate behavior toward guests. Female guests had complained about him entering rooms without knocking, lingering too long, making them uncomfortable. Mr. Vance had let him go quietly without filing formal reports. Do you have contact information for Patterson? Officer Williams asked. Mr. Vance pulled up the employee file, an address, a phone number, emergency contact information. Send units to this address, Officer Williams said into his radio. Possible suspect in multiple incidents, may be dangerous. At 3:15 a.m., officers found Tom Patterson's apartment empty, but filled with disturbing evidence. Photos of the hotel, specifically the 4th floor, photos of guests, particularly solo travelers in room 412, copies of security codes that he'd somehow maintained access to even after being fired, and most damning, 3 driver's licenses belonging to 3 different people. The man who'd disappeared in March, the woman who'd woken up disoriented in April, a businessman who'd checked in just 2 weeks ago and had also checked out early, an incident Mr. Vance had never mentioned. 3 victims we know about, Officer Williams said, showing Mr. Vance the licenses. How many more that we don't? Mr. Vance looked like he might vomit. I didn't know. I thought these were isolated incidents, misunderstandings. You never thought to do your due diligence, Officer Williams said coldly. You never thought to check security footage after guests complained. You never thought to report suspicious activity. You were more concerned with protecting the hotel's reputation than protecting your guests. By 4 a.m., an APB was out for Tom Patterson. Hotel records showed he'd been using a stolen master key to access rooms, specifically room 412, because it was positioned at the end of the hall with the poorest camera angle. He'd timed the entries for late at night when guests were likely asleep, possibly drugged from minibar drinks he'd tampered with earlier in the day by using his still active security codes to access supply areas. The woman in April had been lucky, waking up before he could do whatever he'd planned. The man in March hadn't been lucky. Police found evidence suggesting he'd been held somewhere, possibly Patterson's old storage unit at a facility 3 miles away. A team was en route to check it. You saved your own life tonight, Officer Williams told me, as dawn started breaking through the lobby windows. If you'd drunk anything from that minibar, if you hadn't used the security bar, if you'd opened the door when he tested it, he didn't need to finish the sentence. At 5:30 a.m., I got a call from the airline. Due to fog, my flight was delayed until noon. Normally that would have frustrated me, but at that moment, all I felt was relief that I had nowhere to be, nothing to do except sit in this lobby and process what had almost happened. At 6:15 a.m., police arrested Tom Patterson at a truck stop 40 miles away. He'd been monitoring police scanners and knew they were looking for him, but they'd found him before he could get too far. In his vehicle, they found rope, duct tape, a stun gun, and a list of upcoming solo traveler reservations he'd somehow accessed from the hotel's system. My name was on that list. He'd been planning this for weeks, tracking when room 412 would have a solo traveler, someone who wouldn't be immediately missed if they went quiet for a few days. By 8 a.m., Detective Sarah Park arrived to take over the investigation. She interviewed me for 2 hours, going over every detail of the night. She confirmed that the man from March had been found alive in Patterson's storage unit, dehydrated and traumatized, but alive. He'd been held there for 6 days before Patterson had apparently panicked and released him with a warning to never speak about it. The man had been too terrified to report it, had simply left the state and tried to forget. The woman from April corroborated everything once police contacted her. She'd filed a report with a different jurisdiction, but it had gone nowhere without evidence. The businessman from 2 weeks ago was still missing, and police were searching Patterson's other properties. Detective Park asked about Becca. That young woman probably saved multiple lives by speaking up, even when her employer dismissed her concerns. We'll need her full statement, but I want you to know she did the right thing. I asked to speak with Becca before I left. She was finishing up her shift, looking exhausted but relieved. Thank you, I said simply, for trusting your instincts and warning me. She started crying. I'm so sorry I didn't do more sooner. If I'd pushed harder, maybe that first man wouldn't have. You did everything you could in the position you were in, I told her. You risked your job to warn a stranger. That took courage. She wiped her eyes. I'm quitting. I can't work for someone who cared more about reputation than safety. I should have quit months ago. For what it's worth, I said, you'll have no problem finding another job. Any employer would be lucky to have someone with your integrity. By noon, I was at the airport, my delayed flight finally boarding. My phone buzzed with a news alert. Former hotel employee arrested in connection with multiple kidnappings. 2 victims recovered alive. Investigation ongoing. The story would make national news within hours. The Riverside Grand would face lawsuits, criminal investigations, possibly closure. Mr. Vance would likely face charges for negligence and obstruction. But 2 people were alive who might not have been, and a predator was in custody. As the plane took off, I thought about how close I'd come to being another statistic, another name on a list of people who'd checked into room 412 and never properly checked out. And I thought about Becca, a young woman making minimum wage plus tips who'd risked everything to do the right thing, even when no one believed her. 6 months later, I got a message through LinkedIn. It was from Becca. She'd gotten a job at a different hotel chain, one that took her seriously when she'd mentioned safety concerns during the interview process. She'd been promoted to assistant manager and was implementing new security protocols across all their properties. She thanked me for testifying at the trial, which had resulted in Tom Patterson receiving 25 years in prison. The man from March was in therapy, but recovering. The woman from April had started an advocacy group for hotel safety awareness. The businessman from 2 weeks ago had been found alive in another storage facility and was suing the Riverside Grand for millions. The hotel had closed permanently, unable to recover from the scandal. And me? I still travel for work, still stay in hotels, but I always check reviews obsessively, always use security bars, and I always listen when someone tells me to trust them about a warning. Because sometimes the person at the front desk knows something you don't. And sometimes paying attention to that warning is the difference between a normal business trip and becoming a true crime story.